problem with most solopreneurs is that it's all over here.
Yes.
Okay, and because of that, there's no standardization. A big mistake which most solopreneurs do is that they don't have a system. They don't have a system to review and measure themselves, and therefore what they do is the benchmark, but doesn't equal to that they're producing a result. So there's a direct requirement for a process and system over there which will help them to scale up in the future. A big mistake which a lot of solopreneurs do is that they start moving to the operations front and hire people for sales and marketing.
Our aspirations as mankind is growing. We have begun to question ourselves and are trying to delve deep within to understand ourselves and to grow. We want to operate out of a deep sense of purpose. We have realized that humans can alter their lives by altering the attitudes of mind. Here's an attempt to connect, share, get some of the successful people to open up and in the process learn and find the best within us. An attempt to delve into their minds, thought process and attitudes. How they think, feel, operate, and what are the habits that make them who they are. In the process, accept ourselves with all our insecurities, vulnerabilities, fears, and work towards transforming ourselves and in making ourselves our better version for today and tomorrow. I'm Satish Rao. I'm a vlogger, abundance crusader, and I'm passionate about bringing in abundance in all areas of our lives. Karan Hasija has been a serial entrepreneur and business coach for the last 13 years. He owns 2 ventures currently: Quantum Leap Learning Solutions, Southeast Asia's biggest business coaching and performance consulting organization, and Dream Catchers Investment, an organization specifically focusing on scaling up businesses massively. Has started 4 business ventures so far, out of which 2 are successful and 2 went bust, and because of which he knows what works and what doesn't work. He's the author of Amazon bestseller and Amazon's Editor's Choice Cattle or Catalyst book. Over the last 13 years, he has impacted more than 200,000 people through his training and coaching engagements, over 150 plus corporate organizations, and has trained more than 5,000 business owners and professionals in 7 countries. He currently runs a system of handholding 700 plus entrepreneurs and across these 7 countries, helping them to scale up their business. He is known as the systems freak. He is India's leading business coach. So welcome to the Abundance Show, Karan Hasija.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, Satish.
My pleasure.
Glad to be here.
So Karan, let's begin by asking you this. Before you started this business venture and this journey of being in business, what were you doing before that?
Okay, so I started out really young. So the most obvious answer is that I was in college, but the interesting part about what I was doing before I started off business was that while I was in college, I was also part of a youth organization, which I would say was a simulated experience of running a business, which is where I actually got exposed to how businesses work, how teams work, how does training really work. So I spent a good 2.5 years of my college life in this youth organization.
Okay. So right from day one, instead of taking up a corporate job or something like people do normally, you immediately embarked upon your business journey?
So it didn't work exactly that way. Truth to be told, so I'm an engineer, but I'm an engineering dropout. So I'm one of those cases who, because I was clear that engineering is not for me, and I was clear that I wanted to pursue entrepreneurship, I took the call of dropping out, because anyway I was honestly not really accomplishing anything because I just wasn't interested, and I knew where my journey was going to go. I took the call of dropping out. Before that, before my engineering and just after my 12th standard, I had a 7th month of a vacant period, and that was the time I actually worked for a corporate. So I worked for a call center, and a very established call center, just to get my hands dirty, for me to experience how it works. I was just about 17.5 years of age. I didn't want to while away my time, so I wanted to earn a little bit of extra pocket money at that point in time. So I got really exposed to how things work at a very early age for 2 months. But it gave me a lot of exposure to sales. It gave me a lot of exposure to teams. So that's how I started off.
Okay. So in your business journey that you said, you mentioned that you've got 4 business ventures that you have exposed to earlier, and some of them didn't do well, and 2 of them are extremely successful that I know of now. So how did you decide that this is the niche for you, this is the line for you, this is the position that you need to take, or this is your competency?
Okay, so how did I decide? Honestly, I wish I had someone like me to tell me what was the right thing to do 13 years back, because I would have saved at least 8 years of my life. Let me put it that way. And I speak not just for me, I speak on behalf of my business partners also. And therefore, I really believe that having the right kind of education and the right kind of coach and mentor to guide you in the right direction makes a lot of difference. But how did I decide? By doing everything wrong. Yeah, it came from, so here's the funny part about experiences. Experiences gives you expertise, but the expertise comes when, because of that experience, you make a lot of mistakes. So when you make a lot of mistakes, you know what you should not do. Therefore, you figure out what you should do. So that's why I figured out what is my niche, because I did everything which is not supposed to be my niche.
Right. So I think right from the beginning, from the word go for business, you were already into fields like setting up systems and all of that, or was it something which happened along the way?
Obviously, it happened along the way. I was a kid. I come from a business family, no doubt, but I come from a traditional business family where the concept of systems and the concept of processes is alien. My dad's been into textile retail, and we've been primarily into the textile business for, at least my family was in the business for almost 37 years. So I understand business, but not process and systems. In fact, I learned process and systems through one of my failed business ventures. Because there we were working with clients in the UK, and we had to have service providers and vendors working for us across the world. And I was to represent the client, to manage the projects on behalf of them, train them, coach them, hire people for their projects. I had contact center support. So because of that, I had to set up processes and systems which had to work at any given point of time across multiple countries. So irrespective of which country, irrespective of what time zone, it had to give me a measurement mechanism of what is working and what is not working. And through that experience on the go, I actually learned how processes work. I was able to design and create the right kind of processes and systems and work with people across the globe. So that's when I really learned through experience and not through theoretical knowledge.
Okay. So do you feel that, because I know that you're handling a lot of business owners and businesses, but from where I come from, I am looking at what can solopreneurs, people who are into businesses of their own, they are good in what they do, but they don't have large teams, or maybe they don't have any teams. They could be trainers, they could be network marketers. So for them, does it make sense to have systems and processes?
Oh yes, of course. Because first of all, you need to understand what is the process and what is the system. A process gives you direction of what to do and how to do. And the problem with most solopreneurs is that it's all over here.
Yes.
And because of that, there's no standardization. Let's be honest. Today you're a solopreneur, but for you to scale up tomorrow, eventually you will have a team.
Right.
If not 20, 30, 40 people, 1 or 2 people to support you, because if your business is completely going to be dependent on you, then obviously there's a limitation to scale.
Yeah.
So as a solopreneur, having those processes in place helps you not only to build enough of a platform to have a team in place, but also to improvise what you are doing, because when you put it in the form of a process, you can measure yourself a lot more better. And the system, ultimately what is the system? It's a mechanism to measure yourself, to measure, manage and control your activities to produce a result. A big mistake which most solopreneurs do is that they don't have a system. They don't have a system to review and measure themselves, and therefore what they do is the benchmark, but doesn't equal to that they're producing a result. So there's a direct requirement for a process and system over there which will help them to scale up in the future.
Okay. So can you give some specific examples as to, suppose there's a solopreneur or a business owner who is looking at scaling up? He's very clear that systems and processes are absolutely essential. So how does he go about doing that?
So here's my take. As a solopreneur, one thing, let's understand why is the person solo. Solo basically means that they don't have a team. They're a one-man show.
Yeah.
What happens when they're a one-man show? They are involved in everything.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, when you're involved in everything, the consistency at which you want to get results is going to be weak, because you're going to constantly firefight and there's not going to be any kind of consistency. So my recommendation, step number 1, is to make sure that the business model is right, and you evaluate as a solopreneur if your business model has the potential to scale up. What do I mean by scale up? Can you duplicate these services from a scale perspective? Can someone else do it? Can it be replicated in terms of skill? And secondly, after duplicating and replicating it, does it give you the same kind of profit margins which you're getting today? That's when it makes sense to scale. So that's the first step. Evaluate the business model, whether it is scalable and profitable. Then from a time perspective, the business owner, the solopreneur needs to invest a lot of time when it comes to marketing. Because ultimately the bloodline of any business is the marketing and sales.
Yes.
Because marketing is what brings in the leads and sales is what gives you the customers. And once that is set up, once you have enough of a capacity to afford a team to scale up, that's when the team building can start. And the team building should start again on the operational front and not on the marketing and sales front, because to start off with, my honest recommendation to all solopreneurs is that they need to be on the side of the business which is controlling the money. A big mistake which a lot of solopreneurs do is that they start moving to the operations front and hire people for sales and marketing. There's no harm in hiring people, but they need to be involved there in comparison to operations, because that's what brings in the money, right? So develop a team in your operations team to duplicate the service provision, of course with the right kind of quality. But having said that, start getting more focused in marketing, because that's what will bring you the money to scale up. And then once that is set up, you keep, there's a mechanism, there's a science behind hiring people when, where, and that obviously depends upon your business situation and the roles. And then slowly, step by step, with years and with your business scaling up in terms of revenue, you can constantly expand your team and start reducing the dependency on you and get into true management of business. That's the direction a solopreneur needs to take.
Right. So, what would you say is the biggest reason why people or business owners don't look at scaling up or don't look at expanding in a particular way, the way you're talking about in terms of putting systems?
So the biggest reason, according to me, is because they don't know how. Yeah, or they think they know, but most people don't. I mean, when you talk to a solopreneur, their biggest challenge is, I don't know how to scale, which means that they lack knowledge, they lack capability, and because of that, they're not able to go in the right direction. For example, I mean, let's look at it logically. Marketing and sales go hand in hand.
Yeah.
If you don't do marketing, then how can you make sure you get consistent sales?
Yeah.
If you're not doing marketing, then you are relying on hope and you're relying on external forces to give you the money when you're just sitting over there and doing nothing about it. The problem is that most people don't know how to market. And even if they market, they're not marketing in the right way and therefore not getting the return on investment. Okay, so lack of knowledge is the biggest reason why people are not able to scale.
Okay.
Yeah. Second thing is their inability to manage a team. To scale, whether it is technology, whether it is team. What does scale mean? Let's understand that. Scale is your way of maximizing the operations of what you're doing today. You will use either a team or you will use technology. But ultimately, you got to use, and sometimes you're going to use both. People don't know how to operate team more than anything else. They fail the maximum. They think over there that working with a team is equal to hiring them and giving them work. I wish it was so easy and everybody would have done it, but it's not just about hiring and giving them work. There are so many aspects when it comes to team you got to keep in mind, so you're able to generate performance from your team, and that's where the biggest competence is lacking.
Okay, very nice, very interesting. So I fully agree and appreciate the point that you're coming from, but I'd like to give a little twist to it.
Sure.
So what about companies or business owners who are looking at network marketing or even online marketing where you don't have your own employees? It's like a virtual employees. It's like a team that you're building. They are going to work with you, they're going to learn from you, and they're going to implement stuff from you. Okay. So in those scenarios specifically, is it essential for them to think like a company, like a business, or doesn't matter?
So Satish, honestly, my recommendation is yes, because even though, let's just say as a network marketing business or a digital marketer, they could be virtual teams, they could be extended teams who are not on their payroll, or say they work like freelancers, or they work like partners, just like network marketing, it's still a team. Yes. Which means that, I mean, yes, there is a little difference because they're not accountable as an employee, but putting in the right systems for measurement, in creating the right kind of culture so that people are aligned, having the right kind of goals, having the right kind of deliverables, having the right kind of performance management is required, because ultimately, whether it is outsourced or whether it's through a structure like network marketing, you are working as a team.
Yeah.
So why not? Yeah.
Very true. Makes sense. Yeah. So tell me now, in your business, in your company as coaches, I think you're handling a lot of businesses. Okay. Now these business owners, when they come to you, is it that they have a business model which is already like working and they just need to figure out how to scale up, or is there sometimes a fundamental need for them to look at businesses in a little more detail and understand whether the business is really workable or not? So what kind of role do you play in those kind of scenarios?
So Satish, we have both. Okay, so I'll tell you the good part about our business is that for us, we have people at various different stages of business who come in. We have people who are in startup mode. We have people who are third gen businesses. In fact, if you really look at the analytics, more than 80% of the businesses whom we handhold are not startups. Which means they've been around at least for 10 years minimum. Some of them have been around for 50, 60 years, which means that their grandfathers would have started off the businesses.
Yeah.
Okay, and still over there, the business model needs evolution.
Yeah.
Because just because your business is old doesn't mean your business model should not evolve. Come on, markets are changing, customer demands are changing, your product needs to change, everybody needs to evolve with time. So based on my experiences, we've had established businesses who need to rework on their business model. We've had new businesses whose business model is great. So it's always a combination depending upon the situation, and it's not. And if let's just say the business model needs an improvisation, whether it needs an improvisation or not, we do an analysis and give people direction to ensure that they have the right product for the right customer with the right revenue model, so that it's profitable. That combination of these three parameters: product and service, customer, and the money element. These three working in the right permutation combination is essentially the business model. So coming up with that right formula, whether it's established or not, by default we evaluate for people.
Very good. Okay, now that brings me to another question where you have in your team, your three partners who are there. So similar analogy I'm trying to give outside. Now, if you have got a team, if you got a virtual team or your own team, I'm talking more in the context of virtual teams, how does one identify your strength and how does one allocate the roles for each other? Because I see that your teams are like, you are focused on systems and processes. One person your partner is focused on sales, and the partner is focused on marketing and all of that. So how did you come about, deciding that this is the field that we are going to focus on, this is the field that he's going to focus on, and that other person is going to focus on? How is it?
So obviously with experience, you get aware of what your strengths are, and the criteria for you to decide how do you build the right kind of partners, how do you build the right kind of associates, whether it is actual physical teams or whether it is virtual teams, honestly according to me is to look for complementary strengths.
Okay.
So here's how it works when it comes to us. So I'll speak for Rajiv, Pranav and me, the three of us. With each other, we are extremely complementary. And that is the reason why our partnership works. Because what say I am good at, Rajiv and Pranav are not good at. Whereas what Rajiv is good at, me and Pranav are not good at. And what Pranav is good at, Rajiv and me are not good at. So what happens is we have extremely exclusive strengths, and because of that exclusive deliverables to bring on the table, which makes it a synergy. In fact, we're very incomplete without each other, and we always stick to that because I'm no one without the both of them. Rajiv is no one without the both of us, and same with Pranav. We make that team. So my advice and my suggestion, not only when it comes to partnerships, but even when it comes to you building a team, having clarity on what capabilities you require, having clarity on out of those capabilities, what can you bring on the table, will give you that awareness of what kind of partners you need to look at to fill up those capability gaps, to create the right kind of synergy in a partnership. That's how you should go about doing it.
Yeah, very nice. So now I'll ask you a question which is a no-brainer. I think it's an obvious answer for that. But I would like you to put from your perspective, what is the importance of learning? Because I've seen a lot of people, whether in business or even in corporate lives, the learning has almost been relegated to college life. It's like the thing of the past. So how important in today's scenario is it for people to be learning and improvising on themselves?
You touched a nerve, Satish, because it's a very dangerous conclusion a lot of people are coming to, that learning is equal to college. Because come on, let's be honest, okay?